Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here and welcome to our annual Community Heroes Award ceremony. We are so excited to have you here and to honor the amazing individuals that we have that have supported our programs and their work for domestic violence victims around the state. So feel free to participate in the chat if you'd like to congratulate people or just, yay or anything in the chat. You're also welcome to introduce yourself now. Please join me in honoring the various honorees. But first, our Executive Director, Pam Wiseman, would like to say a few words.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I will say very few words because we have lots of people we want to hear from. I just want to say that on behalf of all of the domestic violence providers across the state, thank you. They could not do what they do. I know they would all agree without the help of people in the community, whether it's a newspaper publisher, a student, someone who works in a hospital, somebody who owns a restaurant or a gym, right? Our programs have benefited a lot from the work that their communities have given to them. So we started this Community Heroes, I don't know, maybe 8 years or so ago. I lose track of time. I guess everyone does these days. And because we wanted to really recognize those people. People in our programs, we often get thank yous and notoriety, but the people behind the scenes in the community often don't. So you're going to be joining an illustrious group of, I don't know, two and a half dozen people that have come before you. And you were nominated because your program believed in and valued you, and they wanted everyone to know it. So thank you very much for everything that you've done and for being here today to both give and accept these awards. I appreciate it. Okay, do I continue on? I do, okay. So it is now my pleasure. I've gotten to say this, I don't know how many times in the past year or two, many, many times, and I should be good at it. I'm probably not, but again, it's my honor to introduce to you our Lieutenant Governor, Howie Morales. He has been appearing at our membership meetings. He was interviewed, did a lengthy interview for our recent legislative newsletter. The thing I just want to point out that he did, a year or so ago, right during the height of the pandemic, he hand wrote letters of support and encouragement to each and every domestic violence provider in the state. And I think that's unheard of, to have a lieutenant governor who would take the time to do something that personal. And so we are really happy that he is a supporter and thankful for everything that he's done. So with that, Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you so much, Pam, and to Teresa and the whole team who has allowed me this opportunity to come here with you today. We're actually in legislative session, but as you can see, I'm not in session today. I had my son who isn't feeling very well. He had a high fever yesterday. So as a parent, we have to make sure that we prioritize and that we're there. So I'm coming to you from my home in Silver City while caring for my kids. And I hope that everyone else is continually being safe, and hopefully that we continue to move forward in the timeframe that we've seen over the last 22 months. But it is always about coming together. So it's good to be here with every one of you. And I just want to say how much I appreciate this, because it really is an honor for me to be here with the Coalition Against Domestic Violence again, this time to recognize and honor our 7 outstanding community heroes for 2022. And I swelled with pride when I saw the pictures that were shown on the wonderful video as you started today's program, because I have read about each of your unique and generous contributions to help in this fight against the scourge of violence that is occurring in domestic settings in New Mexico daily. I want to just say today that I'm extremely grateful for your compassion and for your commitment to this cause, a cause I share with each of you. And I know in just seeing the bios and seeing the work that's being done, it'll continue to take place. So I thank you, because it's going to take all of us, a community across this state of ours, to actually end domestic violence and abuse once and for all. Your contributions and your work truly do inspire each one of us to show us the way of how we can continue to lead with kindness, compassion, and love. Thank you once again to the New Mexico Coalition Against Domestic Violence, especially my friends, as I mentioned earlier, Pam and Terry, for always including me and recognizing the organizations and individuals across New Mexico's communities who are making a huge difference for women and for families, children, and communities who are impacted by domestic violence. I know that it hasn't been an easy year to put all these kind of events together virtually, but recognizing leaders matters. And I thank you for doing that, because by recognizing them, you inspire others to follow that same path. So I want to say to Debbie, congratulations. Special Commissioner Jeffrey Nims, congratulations. Donna Seifert, congratulations, and thank you for your continued advocacy. Dr. Sosa, despite your schedule, your tremendously busy schedule, you still find ways to show us the way. And David Selvage, same to you. I want to say a special congratulations to Dinorah Guthrie and Chris Baker, publisher of the Taos News. I know how important it is that messaging gets out there so that we continue to put the message out there of the work that's being done and the great things that are happening. So congratulations are in order for these honorees. And we appreciate your wonderful support of our domestic violence programs across the state of New Mexico. We still certainly have a lot of work to do here in our state. And we want to lead the way to guarantee that women and their children have a safe life and a real chance to a good, constructive family. That is why we're here. That is why we do the things that we do. And we would not be able to do this work without people like you. So thank you, congratulations, and God bless every single one of you as we continue to do his work by blessing others.
Thank you so much, as always, Lieutenant Governor. Really appreciate your words. So, okay, well, shall we get on with it? It is now my pleasure to introduce to you our Chief Operating Officer, Zane Stevens, who is going to, I believe, give the first award. Take it away, Zane.
Thank you, Pam. Good morning, everyone. As Pam said, I'm Zane Stevens. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at the Coalition. I'm so glad to be here with y'all. I'm really excited to have the opportunity to get us started this morning. So our very first award recipient is Chris Baker, publisher for the Taos News, which was mentioned just a minute ago. Chris was nominated by Melinda Williams from the Community Against Violence up in Taos. Melinda, would you do us the honor and tell us more about Chris and why you nominated him?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And we are super, super pleased to have Chris Baker and Taos News selected as an honoree of the 2022 New Mexico Coalition Against Domestic Violence Community Heroes Award. They are well deserving of this award. I started working at CAV about 28 years ago, and before that as a volunteer. And Taos News preceded me in working with this program. A long history, but because of murders in the community and some rapes in the community members came together to form our agency, and Taos News was at the beginning covering it. They were asking for community members to help with shelter. They were asking for community members to help with volunteering. And I know that over the time I've been at CAV, we've been working with Taos News, and Chris Baker in particular, since he's been there. He has my cell phone number. I have his cell phone number. We call each other when needed, and he always responds. He always picks up. He's not somebody who dodges my calls. They help when we need help with fundraising. They put a story in. If we need help with recruiting volunteers, or because there's peeping Tom issues, or because there's a rise in child abuse, they're willing to do a story and do not just from our perspective, but to get the community to understand the problem. Chris seems to be personally invested in making sure we have a safer community and in supporting CAV, and we are very, very proud of them and our relationship. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Melinda. I appreciate it. You know, I always say in a community our size, you have to really work together. And I put together a short little PowerPoint with it. I think if we go back and look at the history of CAV, we have to go back and see where they first started and where we're at. So if I could just share my screen, is that possible with the group? Is that, can everybody see that okay? We're okay? Okay.
Yes.
So we have a 44-year-old partnership with Community Against Violence. I've been at the paper for 23 years. And I can say that, just like Melinda said, we talk all the time when there's, I remember just a month ago, they needed to borrow our big truck in Taos, and we were there to help with that. And so it goes back to a long partnership in which we've all worked together. And I just wanted to start from the beginning. Back in 1978, these are some of the stories that first appeared in the paper. Back then, it was called the Domestic Violence Task Force. And you didn't see a lot of stories in the paper back then. It was kind of not really on the forefront of everyone's mind like it is now. But we talked about battered women issues. We talked about how to get help and just the beginning stages. And I think, you know, we were really proud at that point to get the word out. And this group just started saying, hey, we got a problem in our community. What are we going to do about it? And so this is the beginning stages of it. And then back in 1995, when CAV first got their shelter, we were there to cover it. This is not the best cover from the paper, but they're looking for, close to $500,000 from the legislature. So we were there to cover it. Back then it was called the Community Against Sexual and Domestic Violence. So we were there to cover that with ads and stories. And I think that was the beginning stages of them really taking hold in Taos and really making a big part in the community. We're real proud of Melinda's had a column in the paper for the past 13 years. This runs every other week. And it's probably one of the most read columns in the paper. She takes on some tough issues. We had a murder in the Pueblo last month. And when things happen in the Pueblo, it's hard to get what's going on out there. It's the FBI gets involved, and she really takes some tough issues and puts that in the forefront for our readers. Again, it's one of her best read columns. She takes national issues and she drills them down to a local level. And that's real important. CAV has been voted the best nonprofit in Taos. So we have, like most communities, we have a best of Taos, and there's 220 nonprofits in Little Taos, New Mexico, and they're voted the best nonprofit all those years since 1999. And it's kind of interesting. We have more people that vote in the best of than they vote for mayor in Taos. So it's a well coveted award and well deserved by CAV. Over the years, we've covered their successes. They had a new funding for the Domestic Violence Court. They are voted the best thrift store in Taos. So in Taos, we have a lot of thrift stores and coffee shops, and to be voted the best nonprofit and the best thrift store, I think that's a big feather in their cap. Their first 40 years, we've been there to cover their successes. Anything they have done, we've been there, I think. This is just a small sampling of our stories. I'd be here probably 3 days if I covered all the wonderful accomplishments they've done, but we're proud to be part of that. As we know, domestic violence has worsened since the pandemic. And so we've been there to cover all that. And one thing we're real proud of, they have a big community radiothon every year. I think it's the second biggest fundraising event in Taos. And I go on the radio and talk about their accomplishments, and we give them a little check. And again, we are proud to be part of their success. And not only CAV, but there's a lot of number of nonprofits. There's Heart of House is another group that works hard in Taos to help shelter women and children. And finally, I'm really proud. In 2010, we honor 9 unsung heroes and our Citizen of the Year, and Belinda was one of our unsung heroes back then. So that's a huge accomplishment of what she's done for the community. And again, I think this could be done in almost every community. You might not have a newspaper, but you can partner with your radio station, your TV station, but it's good to have partnerships. And I think this is one that works, and it's been working for 44 years, and we're proud to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris Baker. We appreciate all you've done for Community Against Violence. And I'm Gwen Cadis. I'm going to introduce the next award recipient, who is Donna Seifert, who was nominated by Shauna Dahl of Esperanza Shelter. Shauna, could you please tell us about your community hero and why you nominated her?
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Gwen. So yeah, I'm super honored and excited to have the opportunity to nominate Donna on behalf of Esperanza staff for the Community Hero Award. Yeah, I'm just honored to be able to do this. I used to help kind of organize this event, so it's really exciting to be able to kind of come full circle and nominate someone here with Esperanza. So Donna's been a volunteer for us on and off again for about 2 years, and she volunteers for our legal advocacy program. So in her role, she advocates for survivors of domestic violence in the Santa Fe First District Court. And so she assists individuals with filing protective orders. She accompanies individuals to hearings, and then she provides, other court-related advocacy services over the phone and in person. And so the majority of the survivors that we work with on domestic violence related cases, in most cases, they don't have lawyers. And in most cases, they're very terrified and just really scared to go to court. And a lot of times they're alone. So that's what we've kind of noticed, is that unfortunately, a lot of our survivors come to court alone. And that's why Donna's role as a legal advocate is so important. So when I came on board as the clinical director about 4 months ago, the previous legal advocate that we had for several years had just resigned. And I came on board with very limited experience and knowledge about legal advocacy. So I was kind of like, I came on board thinking, how in the world am I going to run this program? And how am I going to fill some of these gaps to make sure people are receiving these critical services? And so I kind of inherited Donna, and Donna just stepped up and she just kind of jumped into the role. And really what was supposed to be kind of a part-time position with some designated hours turned into pretty much a full-time position. Not because we asked for it, but because Donna just took the initiative and started to do that. And there was actually a point in time where we were kind of reined her in and we're like, we really don't want to burn you out. Can you please kind of stick to this time frame? But Donna was like, you know what, we can't, these people that we're serving, we can't fit them into a time frame. People need services in the evenings, they need services first thing in the morning. And so she really, took that on when she didn't really have to. Donna also took Spanish classes on her own just so she could help the population that we work with. And she's taken several Spanish classes, advanced Spanish classes, and I would say her Spanish is she's pretty fluent. But she did that all just to be able to help, the people that come and that we serve. She just always goes above and beyond. She never leaves people hanging. If someone has a question outside of the scope of kind of what we do, she does whatever she can to find that answer. And she always, when she calls me for an answer, she just says, I just can't leave them hanging. They've called all these places and no one will give them the answer. And I'm not going to be the person that's going to do that. I'm going to connect them with resources. And then just one interesting kind of fact about Donna that I found interesting. Donna's a retired archaeologist. So I kind of asked her, what made you want to come and kind of volunteer to do this work? And what she let me know is that kind of what drove her passion and interest was based on her work as an archaeologist. And so she was involved in her role as an archaeologist. She was involved with some archaeological excavations of brothel sites in downtown Washington, D.C. many years ago. And it was that research that she did on this project that introduced her to this kind of long history of violence against women. So I thought that was an interesting fact about Donna I wanted to talk about. And really just to close out, because of our staffing shortages here due to COVID, really, if we hadn't had Donna kind of there to fill these gaps, we would have had to put our services on hold and we would not have been able to serve the amount of people that we've been able to serve and provide those really critical services. So thank you so much on behalf of Esperanza. Thank you, Donna, for all that you've done.
Donna, would you like to say a few words?
Well, thank you, Shauna. I have to say that when I first saw the email, and this was like the 23rd of December, and I looked at this and says, community hero. And I thought, should I open this message? Is this thing legit? What is this? Or is this one of those things like for just $19.95, you'll receive a certificate suitable for framing, and you can include this with your college application. And then I thought, wait a minute, no, I've heard of this organization. So I'm going to open this. And oh, I was so surprised. It's like, what an honor this is. And then this is the next thing I thought. Boy, this tells you a lot about the organization that I work with. Excuse me for a moment. Someone from Pecos is trying to sell me something. I just thought this tells you a lot about the organization. And this tells you about Esperanza. The team that welcomed me, I really say the team that embraced me and helped me do what I needed to do to really be a success at this. And to succeed in this position, the only job I've ever had where I am constantly thanked for doing my job, for just doing what I'm supposed to do.
Thank you so much, Donna, for your work with Esperanza Shelter, and congratulations once again. My name is Teresa Garcia, and I'm the Director of Communications and Training for the Coalition. Our next honoree is Dr. Sosa. Dr. Nestor Sosa is someone we really wanted to honor here at NMCADV as our community hero because of his dedication to educate our community. He hosts weekly echo calls that have been extremely informative with the ongoing changes with the global pandemic. As we know, the COVID-19 pandemic has created much stress, a lot of unknowns, and false information. And Dr. Sosa has been able to support our domestic violence programs to address those concerns, where our programs were able to support their advocates and survivors across the state of New Mexico. He has made NMCADV and our DV programs across the state a priority, and giving the space to ask questions and educate our programs about the coronavirus. Dr. Sosa has offered several times to continue supporting our programs and continue holding a space for discussion. And for that, we thank you, Dr. Sosa, and congratulations for an award very well deserved for your commitment. With that being said, I will now turn it over to you, Dr. Sosa.
Thank you, Teresa, and thank you, the organization, for this. I really felt honored. I was also surprised, like Donna, when I saw the email. I didn't know what to make out of that. I said, is this really for me? But really, I feel honored. I've been here 3 years, and I was, starting to feel at home in here in New Mexico, a place that I love and I really appreciate. And I brought my family with me. And then the pandemic hit, and I said, I need to be able to help people with, whatever the thing that I can do, which is basically share information, teach, exchange, solve problems in the hospital, etc. So it gave me the opportunity to actually serve. But most of my work was inside the hospital. So I said, well, yeah, I'm doing a lot of things here, but I don't think it's going to be recognized. But then I was lucky enough to be invited to also participate with your organization in the educational sessions. And that gave me, you have no idea how much inspiration to be in contact with the community, to be able to give, especially knowing the work that you do in the community, really make my days easier. And actually the questions and every activity that we did together was really illuminating for me. So I learned as much from just the interaction from you. So you can count on me always to help. I am actually looking for a community activity to do besides my clinical work. So you can count on me as a volunteer, as a healthcare provider, as an information source, or whatever you need me to do, I'll do, because I really have come to appreciate what you are. And thank you again, and congratulations to all of the other honorees today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nestor Sosa. We are also incredibly grateful for your support during such difficult times. Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Iris. I'm the administrative coordinator here at the Coalition. Our next honoree is Debbie Damaris, who was nominated by Marco Zubia of Esperanza Shelter. Marco, could you tell us a little more about your honoree and how they have made a difference in your program?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for allowing me to speak. We were so fortunate to have Debbie come to us at a very challenging time, as Shauna spoke about, during the height of the pandemic and so many unknowns. We had to move our participants out of our emergency shelter into transitional housing units. And our executive director and I were talking about it would be great to find an interior designer or a couple interior designers to help kind of sponsor these apartment units with furnishings and really make them homey for our participants. And Debbie was the first one that popped in my mind because I knew her from the real estate world. And she was the first one that I contacted. And when I contacted Debbie, she immediately said yes. And to my surprise, she actually said yes to help furnish all 7 units for us, donate her time, work with local consignment stores, both in Santa Fe and Albuquerque, have her team help with picking things up and loading them in their moving truck and then actually taking them to the apartment units and furnishing these apartments for us. And I, was shocked, for one, that somebody would agree to do that. And then especially during, the height of the pandemic, we were in the September, October 2020 timeframe when there was still so many unknowns. And Debbie really put herself and her team out there in the sense of potentially exposing themselves to COVID. And she did it so graciously and so effortlessly. And since that time, Debbie has really been one of our significant partners with even helping people, our participants, as they transition out of shelter into their own potential homes or apartments. She's been able to help secure items for them and help with moving people in and out of our emergency shelter units. So we are just forever grateful for Debbie and her partnership and her entire team. And additionally, Debbie's actually helping us with the remodel of our bathrooms in our shelter right now, and really helping with what she loves to do with designing and picking out colors. And Debbie's just such an amazing person to work with. She's so easy to work with, and we really appreciate everything that she's done for Esperanza.
Debbie, would you like to say a few things?
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you to Marcos. Am I unmuted at this time? Okay. Thank you to Marcos and to Esperanza Shelter, and of course to the Coalition for this nomination and the award. It's just been a privilege for me to be able to be of service to help support the important work of Esperanza Shelter and to help our community. And as Marcos said, we have helped those families move from their transitional homes to their permanent homes. And it just so happens to be that we're doing that today. I have a crew working on that. And so it's just a real honor for me to be able to be a part of helping somebody establish a new chapter in their life. And it takes a village to do what I do. And I do really appreciate the staff of Esperanza and the volunteers of Esperanza, as well as the donors who've all contributed to helping me to help improve these lives. They're so precious, they're so important, and it's just an honor to be a part of it. And I really appreciate the nomination and the award, and thank you for the opportunity to be of service.
Debbie, thank you so much for all of your dedication and your service to those affected by domestic violence. Hi, everyone. It's wonderful to be with you here this morning. My name is Rachel Cox. I'm the Chief Program Officer with the New Mexico Coalition Against Domestic Violence. And while we are all, in our homes across the state, I'm really grateful for this opportunity to feel our broader community. So again, thank you for everyone who's joined us and for all of our nominees today. Our next honoree is David Selvage with the New Mexico Department of Health. We here at the Coalition nominated David for his work. Since the beginning of the pandemic, David has been an integral resource to domestic violence agencies, homeless shelters, and our community at large. He has hosted weekly and now bi-weekly calls, updating programs on COVID-19, answering our questions, and providing steady, trusted answers and guidance. He has maintained a solution-focused outlook and has inspired programs to do the same. Throughout different stages of the pandemic, as things have improved, and then we also saw our numbers rise again, he has always been a phone call away with next steps, reassurances, connections to key resources, and solutions. And also, David, always just so much humanity, you know, and humor and a sense of possibility when we were all just so overwhelmed and uncertain. We can't thank you enough, and we know you are stepping into retirement soon, and we wish you the absolute best, and congratulations on a major contribution at this stage in your career. You've really been there for us, and so we deeply, deeply appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Rachel, and thank you, everybody. I see a lot of familiar faces today, and I can't tell you how completely blown away I was with this. I feel like I'm in such esteemed company, people who've accomplished so much, do so much for the community. I've learned much more than I think I've given throughout this whole process. And it's humbling because the work that people do across the state is just tremendous. And really, I guess, you know, I can't imagine what we would be doing if we didn't have everybody who's on this call and everybody who's not doing the work on a day-to-day basis to protect people and to try to make life better for all the citizens of New Mexico. And I want to join Dr. Sosa in saying that as I go into the next phase of my life, which I don't know what that's going to look like, but I am entering retirement after a career with state government. I too want to continue to be involved and look to be involved in ways that I can help. I feel completely unworthy of this award, but all I can say is thank you all for your kindness and for everything that you do. And I look forward to seeing you in the next phase of my life, and have a great one.
Thank you, David. Your continuous support during the pandemic has been invaluable to our program, so definitely worthy of this award. I'm Teresa Armendariz. I'm the Program Support Specialist for NMCA-DV, and I'd like to announce our next honoree, DV Special Commissioner Jeff Nims. Commissioner Nims was nominated by Stephanie Villalobos at Valencia Shelter Services. We have a representative from Valencia Shelter Services with us today to share how Commissioner Nims supports their community. Do we have somebody from Valencia that can, maybe some audio problems?
Stephanie is on, there she is.
Okay, if there's some audio issues, I'm going to go ahead and read the nomination that Stephanie sent in. Commissioner Nims has been a true hero in our community. He takes special care to review and administer fair rulings of all order of protections that come across his desk. Commissioner Nims reviews cases from the perspectives of the family, the victim, children, and the one perpetrating violence. He refers victims to services and perpetrators to batterer intervention services that can be life-saving. He's always available to support his community by regularly attending the CCRT in our county, and will host an Ask Commissioner meeting for those working in the system to better understand his rulings, rationale, and hear the community's needs. He takes community violence into consideration and will adapt his order to better support families and the system. Commissioner Nims has saved lives by just taking additional time to ensure safety for families, and we at VSS are a successful program due to his support and passion for helping people. Thank you, Commissioner Nims. Would you like a couple minutes to say something?
Well, of course, I join with everybody else who has won these awards. It's very humbling to hear those compliments. I'm the only judge on this year's list. I'll just highlight a couple things that I try to bring to every case. One is, as I think we all know, victims often are not heard. I can tell you from the moment I read a petition to when they come into this courtroom and I put them under oath, victims are heard. I listen to their stories. I look at whatever pictures they bring in, recordings they have, text messages they might have. Victims are heard in this courtroom. The second thing that's very important to me is, as we all know, life's just not fair. And our victims and survivors know that as well as anyone. But in this room, in this courtroom, they will get fairness. And I think all of the folks that you've helped with who come here and to this courthouse and seek help and protection, they will get heard and they will get fairness. And I try to do that case in and case out. I want to thank the shelter, Stephanie and all her folks at the shelter for their assistance. It's very flattering to be regarded as a hero by them, because honestly, you folks are heroes to me. You make a big difference in our community as well. So I thanks to the shelter for your nomination. Thanks to all of you out there for all the work you do. We truly work in a field where the harvest is plentiful, the gatherers are few. You know, it's a big problem and it takes a lot of people to deal with it. We often don't have the resources we need, but I really appreciate the award and I thank everybody out there for all your work in this field. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm so sorry I was having audio issues, everyone. But I did want to echo what Stephanie said, that we are very grateful to have Commissioner Nims in Valencia County. He has been a big supporter of VSS and our staff. He is always very open to educating our task force and always open to feedback to make the protection order process better and easier for our survivors. So I can say that he's made a big difference in Valencia County, and on behalf of all survivors in Valencia County that, you know, we've served, and VSS, thank you so much, Commissioner. We appreciate you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you all. It is now my privilege to introduce our last honoree. And this is a special kind of honor. It is in memory of Dinorah Guthrie, who was one of our colleagues and who started the program known as Option in Hobbs in 1978. And I don't know, that might make her one of the first in the country. I don't know. If she's not the first, it's really, really close. So she was clearly a trailblazer. When I got here, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago, Dinorah Guthrie was already a legend. If she wanted to advocate for the rights of women and children, and particularly victims of domestic violence, you had, this was the story I was told, and I guess I saw that a few times myself, you really better not get in her way. Because she was going to pull out all the stops to make sure that what needed to be done was done. So Dinorah is a leader, she's a role model, she's a voice, and she is truly a community hero. So I think it's fitting that we were able to offer her this. And I'm going to ask her son, Robert Guthrie, who has taken over Option and Hub since Dinorah passed away, to just say a few words. And then I suspect there might be at least one person, because I can see her there in one of the boxes, who knew Dinorah, who might want to add something to. Melinda, that's you. I suppose you figured that. So with that, Robert Guthrie, if you would please talk to us. By unmuting. Oh, there we go.
That's the first thing. Hey, Pam, thank you. Thank you for this honor. Like Pam said, Dinorah was my mother, and she did start the shelter in 1978. She started sheltering services in 1979. Took a while. We were the third shelter organized and opened in New Mexico. She had a passion for helping those in need. She really did. Pam said she was fierce. She was. I knew her as mom. Other people might know her in a different role. She was a voice for those who couldn't speak. And many times I saw her hugging people. To our community, she was a role model and an inspiration for future generations of women. At her funeral, I couldn't help but take notice that all the keynote speakers were men. And they were judges and law enforcement guys and people who she might have done battle with 20 years earlier. And yet they felt such an admiration that they had to come and say their piece for her. And there was all respect, all love, all courtesy. I think it's important that we remember the past because it sets the tone for the future. Her work for 43 years. Imagine that. Some of us aren't even 43 years old here. And yet she was out there on the streets. I remember a couple of times where she would get me to go on standbys as a teenager. And I would say, Mom, what are we doing here? And she says, we're going to help this woman. And she'd say, flash the lights to the police car. And I would go there, do that. And then the police would call us up and then we would help the woman, get the kids, bring the car and get them to the shelter. It's a great honor. And I look at all the honorees and I go, what a great crowd. You guys are all difference makers. And that's what I called her, a shaker, a mover, a shaker, and a difference maker. And we have that in so many communities. I would like to also thank the coalition for remembering the past. Pam, Teresa, Gwen, Rachel. I know there's more people there, but these are the guys I've worked with. And I got to tell you, we had a great coalition. Great coalition. These guys, if I call, Pam will send me an email, or we communicate, and they have been such a great assistance to domestic violence shelters across the state. I thank you for this award, and I know Mom, she was a people person. She really was. I mean, it was all about crowds and hugging people and kids. And that was her passion in life. And this is such a great honor to be recognized with this group. Pam, thank you so much.
Thank you, Robert. I don't know, we have a video that we'd like to play that is based on a little kind of PowerPoint that Robert did. But before we did that, do you want to say something? Want to unmute Melinda and say something, or?
I would.
Okay.
I know my heart is full of emotions for all of you all. I knew Dinorah since the beginning of when I started working at CAV. She worked with the Children's Advocacy Centers as well as the domestic violence programs. And I remember about 15 years ago or more, maybe, she hosted us all at her home. And it's when I got to see her in a different light, like how she was gentle and kind with her family, because at the table, she was a badass, just take no prisoners, ready to argue to the end. And one of my colleagues on this, who was on earlier, Debbie McCann, she remembers Dinorah back, in the early, like 20-some, 30 years ago. And there was this really contentious meeting. You guys are going to be shocked. Dinorah was there, and we were arguing about all kinds of stuff. And Dinorah reached in her purse and she slammed a gun down on the table and said, "Enough, we're gonna do what's right." And that was it. We all like, okay. Like, we don't care about the consequences, about how people will not like what we're doing. We're gonna change our corner of the world. She was amazing. And that passion helped to move our programs forward. So, you know, heartfelt thank you to the legacy that she's given, and Robert, for you all continuing.
Thank you so much. Okay. Rochelle, are we ready for the video? Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Rochelle.
Yes. So thank you again, Robert, for accepting this award on behalf of your mother and for her many years of service. So I just want to thank you all for attending, for our hardworking programs, and for our generous honorees. It's been incredibly touching to hear what you have done for your communities. So this concludes our award ceremony for this year, but we really hope that we'll get to see you next year, and hopefully it will be in person next time. So thank you all, and we hope to see you again soon.